We programmed the hologram of Dean Martin to perform at the Epcot Food and Wine Festival. But there's a minor issue.
My lackey, Bob Igor, says to me. Explain, I say.
I could explain, but this is really one of those things that is easier to show.
Igor replies. Igor moves to the hologram's control panel, a black box with a variety of inputs. Dials, knobs, sliders, joysticks, trackpads, and trackballs.
You know what? It would really help if you could just come over here,
Igor says. I walk over to the control panel and point to the largest button on the panel. It is big, it is red, and it simply says, everything. It waits to be pressed like a furious zit. Yeah, this is the only functional button. The others are either for show or for me to fidget with while I perform, I say. I push everything, and Dean Martin appears, singing.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, memento mori. When the world starts to shine like you had too much wine, memento mori.
He looks miserable. What the? I say.
Turn it off! Turn it off!
Says Igor. I unplug the power cord and Dean Martin disappears, though his voice hovers for a half second, likely because of the expensive tape echo I've put at the end of his pedal chain.
You have to unplug the whole thing every time you want to turn him off?
Igor says. Well, we tried it lots of other ways, but everything doesn't really work as a toggle, I say. It's complicated.
Well, we can't have him going out like this. It's going to depress all the mice,
he says. Well, let me try again, I reply. I plug the power cord back in again, hold my breath, and press everything. Dean Martin returns, croons, and looks even worse than before. His suit is disheveled, and his eyes are dewy and droopy like an old basset hound.
When you live all your life and think I will not die, memento mori. When you eat cannoli cream and it gives you strange dreams, memento mori.
I unplug the black box, and he disappears, but his voice remains again briefly.
This is a disaster. What are we going to do?
Says Igor. I would suggest we try something, but we have tried both everything and nothing, I reply. That's a pretty complete set.
Well, maybe we should just keep it at nothing,
Igor says. Right in front of me, Dean Martin appears, in threadbare polyester, holes in his trousers' knees, with a tie hanging slack from his shirt's unbuttoned collar. He does not sing.
What the? Why did you turn it back on?
Igor says. I didn't. Look, it's unplugged, I say, pointing for Igor to look at the black box, which is unplugged. Dean grabs me by my shirt's collar, lifts me up, and begins to spin. He's hitting 1, 2, now getting up to 10 revolutions per second. Gives my inner ear a real beating, and I am moving so fast that his arm is like a lever, and I am moving centripetally to the outside of his reach, the world a blur. Dean spins me so much I begin to feel like a child on the teacup ride, and just when I am about to beg him to stop, he does, of his own accord, and now I am flying, sailing, arcing towards the clouds, unsure of where I am headed, but oh no, there it is. At first just a hazy outline, but slowly tessellating into focus. It is Spaceship Earth, the great Epcot ball. Dean Martin turns to Igor, points a finger as if cueing him to speak.
Memento mori!
I crash into the Epcot ball, and I feel strangely fine, but I have broken its alabaster shell, and out spills a writhing mass of rats. Hundreds and thousands now crawling all over each other, falling out of the golf ball of progress like a broken oil pipe, carrying me on their scurrying backs safely to the ground. My God, they have been watching over us this whole time. How did I ever think we were in charge? Coming to Netflix soon, the new reality show, Love at First Snipe. Contestants are set loose on a remote, dense jungle. We give them each an M21 semi-automatic battle rifle equipped with a variable zoom scope and 2 magazines. Contestants are not permitted to be closer than 1/2 mile from each other. This is a war of vision, not sound. The lovers/snipers watch each other through scopes, become voyeuristically familiar with the small, everyday things their potential partner does. The vibes are a bit off in the raw footage, but our editing team does a great job removing all of the untoward effects. Panic attacks, unless cathartic, are omitted. Shots exchanged between lovers whose story is uninteresting are omitted. Shots of carnage, either of a violent or a lascivious nature, should always be paired with the song. Intense emotions are excellent opportunities for vertical integration and brand awareness. Deaths, of course, are also omitted for the most part. We haven't had much success shooting this show in terms of the relationships working out. We haven't had much success shooting this show in terms of the relationships working out. There is a certain rawness that remains between two people when one pierces the other fully, even if just in a limb. And even worse, as time goes on, the candidates have begun to self-select. In the beginning, some looked for love, even if in an unconventional way. Now everyone either wants to shoot or get shot. Damn the consequences. Yes, the reality of injury by bullets is terrible, and even worse is getting to understand who shot you or who you shot. But the rejection of the knowing, the reality TV of it all, makes great material for both primary and secondary media markets. Love is war. Let's fight for freedom with ads. Sir, you're going to need a receipt, Inez says, the same line repeated dozens of times a day to an ever-growing line of dissatisfied customers. Inez wished the economy's state was better, but at least she was able to get a job. Oh, don't worry, says Small Mike, and reaches his hands towards his pocket. I've learned my lesson. Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Small Mike fails to find the receipt in the first pocket of his zip-off cargo pants. That makes 3 to go. 4 if the cargoes were a complete set, with the second half of the left leg are absent. Inez wonders where they are, and how a man dares to leave his house in such disarray. Small Mike is on pocket number 3 with a zen look on his face, like he just ate a friend's bad cooking but doesn't want to tell them. Light returns to his eyes, and his hand vacates his pocket, white paper trailing behind it. Here it is, says Small Mike, and places the paper on the counter. This is not a receipt for this store, Inez says, or a receipt. Oh yeah? Small Mike says, anxious. Hey, can we keep the line moving? Says Roger, a middle-aged man wearing a basketball jersey and a camo bowler's cap. The rest of the line is also passively furious, pendulously moving their leg weight back and forth while glued to their phones. The line now snakes into the closed self-checkout lanes, minutes away from disrupting the Radio Shack checkout counter. Inez looks over what Small Mike called a receipt, a beautiful, albeit decrepit document written on animal skins with some sort of plant-derived ink. A combination of pictures and pictographic writing showed what seemed to be an ancient funerary scene, but in a style that seemed to predate even the Old Kingdom. This was the most she had ever used for education on the job. This is incredible. This shows complicated funeral rites preceding anything I've ever seen. Where did you find this? Inez asked.
Well, I don't know about that. That should be a receipt for the RC car I brought here,
said Small Mike. The drawings also include an accurate star chart. This civilization could predict changes in the climate for thousands of years before we thought possible. I mean, this is amazing, Inez says, enraptured.
I want to see a manager,
Small Mike says. Oh. Okay, Inez says, taken aback. She pulled out the squirrel-like phone and dials the intercom. Manager, Inez said to one person in the whole store.
Hey, what's up?
Sorry, I was doing a go-backs, says Jessie, slightly out of breath after running 25 meters, adjusting her highlighter yellow LeBron James snapback. Give this a look, says Inez.
Oh, I think this is probably Akkadian.
See, the symbol here is a clear throwback to the kingdom of Ur, and meta-analyses of recent potsherd collections have shown there to be complicated agriculture in small pockets outside the Euphrates before continental drift had fully settled, says Jessie. No, the gentleman here wanted a return, says Inez and gestures to Small Mike. An exchange, actually, says Small Mike and smiles. Oh, why didn't you just say so, says Jessie, disappearing into the back. Inez stares at the document, which could be one of the biggest discoveries of the 21st century if she understood it correctly. Maybe this could be her ticket out of here. No more returns, no more minimum wage. Jessie comes back with a boxed RC car, and Small Mike's eyes light up.
That's the one,
says Small Mike, who then snatches the car out of Jessie's hands and walks away triumphantly. As for you, says Jessie, I know this is going to be a bummer, but we have to toss the receipt. Store policy. This is obviously not a receipt, Inez shouts. Is this line ever gonna move? Says Roger, tapping at the spot on his wrist where a wristwatch belonged and wasn't. Jessie throws the ancient manuscript in the trash and motions for the next person to come to the return counter. Jessie turns to Inez, tired-eyed. Just give the man what he wants, says Jessie. I made a dyslexic deal with the devil, a Dalai, and now Pitbull haunts my every step. I go to make breakfast, and the eggs have the same smoothness as his head. In retaliation, I crack a Pitbull open, but all I can hear is,
Have some egg whites.
I take a fork and beat the yolks until he is assimilated and annihilated. There is a warning on TV which warns me of a recall on eggs, and into the trash they go. I try talking about this issue at therapy, afraid my paranoid delusions will win the 51-50 coin toss. You've been under a lot of stress recently, she says, nodding. Yes, well, I am pregnant, even though my wife and I were deemed infertile, I say. Girl, that body don't lie, she replies. What? I say. I said the body keeps the score, she says, and that is my cue to leave. I get home and my wife, Marie, gives me a shoulder rub. Yeah, so the therapist said I was under a lot of stress, but I feel like I'm not really doing that much, I say. She karate chops the knots under my skin.
You not working hard? Yeah, right. Picture that with a Kodak. Better yet, go to Times Square. Picture that with a Kodak.
I feel like I'm out of my mind. My, let it rain over me. Flo Rida tried to warn us about Mr. Worldwide, blew the whistle that spun our head right round. I know you want me. It's now urgent for me to head to Miami and set things straight. I want a heavenly influence, anything but a devil dog. He is the alpha and the omega, the worst outcome of Wooly Wooly. This land used to be full of flowers, but it's crumbling to Ozymandias sand. I am wandering through the desert, my wife and I driving a sports car whose engine is in the back. Coolo! It takes us 4.5 hours to reach Miami, but that is not even the worst part. I talk to every hotelier, and my instructions from hell cannot be fulfilled. That demon. He told me he would reunite, meet at the hotel, the motel, the Holiday Inn. I held up my end of the bargain. Where is he? Dale or no Dale. We are forced to return home, not even a barn to sleep in, after being rejected by every innkeeper. But the voices are gone, fluctuating in the same manner as the new global economy. The sound of a relocated shoulder is recession. Pop! My wife needs some protein, but the fridge is nothing but birds, eggs, things we desired but cannot eat. She runs out and buys bread with a credit card. Turns out you can live on loaned bread. Bread now, pay later. I go to sleep and have no dreams. When I wake up, there he is, rising like the Teletubby sun, the true center of the universe, Mr. Worldwide.